Hi, I'm Hayden Watt.
I'm Joe Hudek.
I'm Landon Washburn.
And I'm Jack Steingas.
And this is our NFL expansion franchise, the Montreal Monarchs. Blue, 42, ready, set, break. All right, so the NFL comes to us with an opportunity for expansion. The NFL expansion is a logical step because the talent and revenue are growing every single year. Teams earned around $432 million each in 2024 from national revenue sharing. The league has focused on European and South American expansion, but has ignored the Canadian region. Montreal is the perfect choice for this market. We're avoiding the saturated market in Toronto, where Buffalo sports fans have kind of taken over, and we're moving a little further north into Quebec, where football is already a staple of their culture. So, brand development. The Monarchs will tap into this strong sports loyalty found in Montreal. The name connects to Mont Royal and the city's French royal heritage. Using symbols like the fleur de lis will create an immediate bond with local fans. The Monarchs will receive national coverage as the only NFL team in Canada. The project uses a mix of private and public funding to ensure long-term stability for our program. So some fan base potential. Montreal is the second largest city in Canada with a population of over 4 million people. It's a massive untapped market that does not compete with Toronto in terms of this competition with the Buffalo area. The success of the Montreal Alouettes, the CFL team for Montreal right now, proves that the city already has a love for professional football. They are dedicated fans and they're willing to come out and support. Respecting local traditions and the language will drive high merchandise sales and build this brand loyalty from the get-go. So, some corporate support and logistics. Some Montreal-based companies that are going to be supporting us are Air Canada, Bombardier, and Bell Canada. These are massive corporations that'll help fund our luxury suites, our sponsorships, and our stadium naming rights. So Montreal is set up perfectly in the Eastern time zone to avoid any scheduling conflicts with teams in travel alongside the on-air times that fit perfectly with the NFL's 1, 4 p.m. and primetime slots. So the funding model will protect taxpayers by limiting the public growth to infrastructure. So the ownership structure. The NFL requires a lead owner to have at least 30% equity, but the ownership group will be made up primarily of these large, wealthy corporations, as mentioned before. The lead shareholder will not need to take on any personal debt in order to make these NFL rules. This structure provides the financial security needed to launch an expansion team. Owner relationships with the community will help secure early corporate sponsorships. So, the stadium funding model. What does this look like? The stadium will be built through a specific public-private partnership. The group will use the MetLife Stadium model by using private debt for construction. Debts will be paid off using personal seat licensing, or PSLs, naming rights, and premium suite funds. So the only thing that would need to come from public funding are the infrastructure and roads for transportation. This arrangement protects the community while providing the NFL with a new modern facility that they can sell to their fans. So our stadium vision. I'm going to pass the rock over to Joey, and he's going to take you from here.
Oh, thanks, Hayden. All right, now we'll dive into our stadium vision. So our stadium plan originally, as Hayden discussed, will be in the Griffintown development area located in Montreal, downtown, specifically in the Peel-Bazin area. So our specific vision for the stadium will be a 65,000 seat with retractable roof stadium. We think a retractable roof is probably most beneficial considering as we're all in Western New York with a bunch of big Buffalo fans being in Buffalo Stadium, you're seeing these harsh winters. We think a retractable stadium will be biggest, especially for us now in the Canada region, which the weather is always just hit or miss within snow, rain, cold weather, whatever it may be, especially in those late October, November, and even December dates within games and home. So we think that also on top of that, with a year-round venue, we think we don't just want to make it 8 home games a year. We want to make it into this concert and these other major events, specifically being in as a new team in Canada, something the NFL fans have never seen before. So games like even World Cup games or anything within that standard, as well as bigger concerts, we think is specifically big for our venue. So having that retractable roof stadium, not only for summer events but also winter events, is major and key. So we want to keep that modern design as you see in that photo. It's pretty sweet. The retractable stadium roof, a lot of fans surrounding with our big Montreal Monarchs logo on all over the sides of it with a bunch of sponsors as well. We'll create that sponsor naming right logo on top of it as well, so we can kind of portray that, as well as that's going to be one of our bigger sponsors, nearing millions and millions of dollars. So that'll be a big design for us. Also, while creating that Montreal culture identity, creating that identity that not only has Canada never seen, but Montreal has never seen within specifically of the NFL. They've seen it within the CFL, as Hayden mentioned, but the NFL is a different ballgame than the CFL if we're going to be totally transparent with each other. So creating that will be definitely beneficial for us, and we think that this will be absolutely crucial and beneficial for the NFL and as us as an organization. Kind of pick off where I left off with the last slide, looking into the stadium financing and the impact it'll have on the entire city and the community of Montreal. So the total cost will be around $2.5 to $3 billion estimate. As we looked at Buffalo Bills having that new stadium, Tennessee Titans down in Nashville have a new stadium, as well as the Kansas City Chiefs. We kind of looked at a few of those, and we think that having this big stadium in Montreal will now be similar to that and within the price range. So now kind of take a deep dive into what that financing will look like. As Hayden mentioned as well, we're kind of going for that private public payment wise. So with a percentage of it of being about 70 to 75% privately funded, with revenue drivers of PSLs nearing $400 to $600 million, with our big sponsors being with our naming rights being $20 to $30 million. So whether that is a sponsor like Air Canada or Bell Canada, as Hayden mentioned as well, we think that's going to be crucial for our private funding, as well as we still want to keep a 25 to 30% private funding, or public funding, my apologies, as we think that we're going to mainly put this now towards the infrastructure as a whole, with stuff like the surrounding development, roads, parking, all that good stuff. That'll be mostly with our public financing. We'll kind of take a deep hit on within that, as well as we don't want to make it the entirety of the taxpayer burden, as we want to make it overall, we want to make it great for the fans as a fan experience within the stadium, but also making it good for the community outside of it with the finances and the impact. So kind of creating that whole community space with the local business integration, we think that's actual key, with not only incorporating the sponsors, the community, the fans, bringing this whole sort of thing together as a whole. Creating this Montreal impact and Canadian impact is absolutely integral. All right, now we're going to get into our revenue strategy as a whole within the Montreal Monarchs organization. So we estimate our ticket revenue to be around $120 to $150 million annually. This is obviously a big revenue generator for us, but that's not going to be the only revenue generation, as I'll get into that a little later within the slide. But first of all, with the tickets, we want to make this a tiered pricing strategy. So obviously making tickets accessible, as we don't plan on being the most competitive team, our first or even second year, as we're obviously going to take it deep into the expansion draft, whatever that is, in the lines of having a younger team with a lot of veterans as well. We don't know how big, we don't want to make the pricing too heavy on these fans. We want to make it, we want to make it packed regardless of what our record is. So that's going to be a little wishy-washy throughout the entirety of the season. So having that tiered pricing strategy, making them accessible, but also still having that premium city will be key for us. So kind of taking a different look now into like the other revenue strategies. We obviously have our merchandise, our concessions, which a certain part of that will go back to the NFL, but as well as, as I mentioned, our premium sitting, our suites, our parking, our experiences. That'll all bring us, little to, a good amount of revenue streams, but not nearly as enough as our ticket, or the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is our sponsors. So our sponsors, as Caden mentioned, and I mentioned in the last slide, Air Canada, Bell Canada, RBCs, absolutely massive corporations within the Canada and the Montreal area, will be super integral to our revenue strategy, especially whoever takes over that naming rights strategy, which will, as I mentioned last slide as well, kind of go on the estimate of around $20 to $30 million. So that alone, on top of, we'd like to have more so towards 75 to 100 sponsors as a whole, not near in the $20 to $30 million range, but, even if it was a few million dollars, even a couple $100,000, that'll obviously, bring in a key part for revenue strategy. As we know, I think now looking at the national branding, and as we want to be known as Canada's NFL team, kind of looking as, Toronto Raptors for the NBA, or the Blue Jays for the MLB. There's no other Canadian teams within those, respective leagues, which are also dominant corporations and organizations as a whole, bringing in billions and billions of dollars. So we think in that bringing in the Canada's NFL team aspect will not only want to bring in fans for tickets, merchandise, and concessions, at the games and bringing these fan experiences, but also for sponsors. They're going to want to be a part of this organization, be a sponsor for us. See their name on the first ever Canadian football team in the NFL will be absolutely integral for our revenue strategy, and we expect a big, big year, even not only in the short term, but also in the long term. So now going to our media and growth opportunities. So as a whole, the NFL media deals will range around $10+ billion annually, which now adding expansion of the Canadian audience value will only bring that up tremendously. So not only for the NFL, but for us, there is serious growth opportunities, specifically within the media standard. So we think this is absolutely crucial and beneficial for not only us as an organization, but the NFL as well. So we also think we have a major advantage within, these media and growth opportunities as we are we're going to go more towards the bilingual and the dual language advantage, as we have not only an English audience, but also as a French audience, which not many of the other NFL teams can even say at all. So we have specifically dominated French areas within the Canadian provinces. So not only in the Montreal area, but also throughout the entire country of Canada, we expect those to be big fans as of our organization, our team. So having, French, these media and communication organizations such as RDS and TVA Sports, which are purely dominant Canadian sources, will be super all bought in with our organization and our team as a whole, as well as our English language advantages in English communications and radio, my apologies, such as TSN, which is a major hockey corporation, media corporation, and that does a lot of the audience for hockey games throughout the entirety country of Canada, as well as Sportsnet will be all bought in as a whole, and which we think is a serious advantage for us. So as well as kind of taking a deep into streaming partnerships, I understand that the NFL has a partnership with the Amazon Prime Video, but you can even use this as an example for something. So we want to really get into, the streaming partnerships, specifically with Amazon Prime Video, as us 18 to 23-year-old college students. This is more accessible and easier for us, and even cheaper than, these serious big, even $10 a month just to watch our games, especially as a new Canada team. We want people to know that, as much as, we want to get our name out there, we're not just going to get this out for free. We want to make our media, and we want to grow as much as we possibly can. So focusing on, the digital and plus the fan engagement as a whole will be serious for us, and we think that there are serious growth opportunities within us as a whole, and we expect big things from the Monarchs. Oh my God.
Here are our mock jerseys. So we wanted to focus a lot on the color scheme that is unique to Montreal, alongside the Flower de Lis imagery and the crown for the Monarch title. So focusing on our primary home jerseys, we're going to go with the blue and red look featured on the left here. We're going to move into our away jerseys, which are the classic white with the red piping on the top and just the overall Quebec feel, focusing on the flag on the shoulder patch alongside our primary logo on the other shoulder. And then moving into the alternate jerseys, we wanted to go really deep into this heritage. So the Flower de Lis with the crown logo is our alternate logo, alongside this red and gold contrast. That would make it a unique jersey that we think could get a lot of jersey sales for the team and be unique to the identity of the Montreal Monarchs.
First, putting an NFL team in Canada creates labor and legal considerations. Being from a U.S. to a Canadian team with a mostly predominant U.S. organization, it has some legal challenges. The league would likely need to work in agreement with the NFLPA, the Players Association, to have a team based in Canada outside the United States. That introduces cross-border employment issues, since Canadian labor laws differ from United States laws. The NFL would also have to make sure players have equal protections no matter where they play. And if a dispute arises, jurisdiction becomes complicated. Would U.S. or Canadian law apply? Would the NFL law apply? All of this have to be worked out before a Canadian team can even think about taking the field. Cross-border logistics. If those legal issues are resolved, there are still major logistical challenges. Players and staff in the U.S. would need work permits to be employed in Canada and the United States. Paperwork and coordination with agencies like the Government of Canada would need to be taking place. There's also constant international travel. Teams would be crossing the border throughout the season, which adds time, cost, and complexity to the NFL season. But with one of the biggest concerns is taxation. Players could be subject to quote unquote jock taxes in both countries and higher tax rates, especially in places like Quebec, could make a city like Montreal less attractive to incoming free agencies. Organizations like the Canada Revenue Agency would play a major role here, and ultimately taxes could make it harder to attract top talent. Beyond logistics, there's also differences in the legal environment itself, especially with a new hot topic in sports betting. Canada allows single-event sports betting nationwide, while the United States only recently expanded after the Murphy versus NCAA decision. That means the team in Montreal could potentially offer different in-stadium betting options compared to the United States teams. However, the NFL would need to enforce consistent league-wide integrity policies to ensure fairness and maintain a public trust with the public eye, regardless of where a team is located. Finally, from a football operations perspective, a new team would have a unique advantage: the chance to build a fully modern, data-driven organization from day one. They could use player tracking data and advanced metrics to improve scouting and roster construction, while also optimizing in-game decisions like fourth down attempts and play calling. Off the field, business analytics could help with ticket pricing, marketing, and fan engagement. In a city like Montreal, that would mean strong bilingual strategies in both English and French. These ideas reflect trends popularized by authors like Michael Lewis, who highlighted how analytics can transform sports organizations. So while a Canadian NFL team would face real challenges, it also presents a rare opportunity to build one of the most innovative and data-driven franchises in the league from the very beginning.
We're going to be talking about marketing and brand identity. So the Montreal Monarchs brand is built around a lot of historical stuff, like its cultural identity, especially with, the royal aspect of their culture. The name reflects the connection to Mount Royal, which is kind of their royal system, and the French heritage and legacy of the leadership. The visual identity is a royal blue color with white and gold, which is pretty universally royal colors. And our mascot concept is Roy, which is the lion. He represents strength and leadership and tradition. It is also designed to enhance fan engagement, especially among younger audiences. So now we're going to talk about target market and national strategy. So the primary market is the Montreal population, which includes both the French and English-speaking citizens, and the secondary market, which is just as Joey was saying, the rest of Canada, considering there's no other Canadian teams, and just generally expanding into Canada via Montreal will allow them to also have a team to root for, although it's not in their city. Having the secondary market also expands reach beyond, just that single city, which will expand merchandise sales, TV viewership, and sponsorship value. We're going to talk about diversity, ethics, and inclusion, also known as DEI. We are very committed to DEI. We will hire diverse amongst, different races, different groups, and that won't just be throughout lower level positioning. We will look to hire management like GM, scouts, all in a diverse light. Considering we're from Montreal and the city speaks both French and English, we will look to hire based on bilingual ability. Obviously, we want people that speak both French and English, which will make a lot of the community and marketing aspects a lot easier. And we also want to establish a culture of respect, representation, and fairness. Lastly, we're going to talk about community integration. We want a strong emphasis on grassroots. So generally just developing football in Canada. We're going to have youth programs which are designed to increase participation in football and develop future talent and fans, and just generally grow the game north of the U.S. We're going to partner with schools and local organizations just to kind of, get the word about the sport and our team to communities. And we are going to outreach community initiatives to establish the team as a cultural institution and not just a fad, a long-term presence in Montreal.
And that was all for your Montreal Monarchs.